When I was first assigned to this vision of leadership, I first thought to myself, what makes a great leader? Some will say intelligence or people skills. Yes, that is very important, but when I was answering this question, I thought of the different types of leaders and their characteristics. Some are charismatic, others are engaging, and some are domineering. But surprisingly, I think some of the most successful leaders are not recognized as leaders and blend in with the crowd. Going into the leadership program freshman year, I thought that in order to be a good leader, you had to be the one constantly in charge, the most popular, the best at public speaking, or basically the best at everything. For those who are in my communications class sophomore year, know that I'm not the best public speaker. But does that mean I cannot be a good leader? That is what I thought, but over the past 4 years, my idea of a leader has grown and developed. I believe that the most effective leaders are those that lead by their actions. I also believe that leaders are present in areas other than the typical leadership role. Just because one has a fancy title like president, CEO, or captain doesn't mean they get to order people around. One doesn't need a title to be a good leader. It is much more than that. People talk about leading by example, but what does that even mean? It is about being selfless and doing what is best for the group or team. Leaders should act as a role model for their followers. Those who lead by example are truly passionate about what they are doing. They then transfer that devotion and passion to their followers. Maybe the followers will be inspired to do the same for others. Many people lead by example, whether they are trying to or not. When I'm in a leadership position, I feel responsible for my followers because they look to me for guidance. That is a huge part of being a leader. Another part of that responsibility is to lead my followers through my own actions. Like Gandhi said, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. Gandhi truly lived by his own words. Consider Gandhi and what he accomplished through his actions. He spent most of his adult life living what he preached. He committed to nonviolent protest, and soon people began to follow in his footsteps. He had that passion every leader needs. Gandhi then led his followers and India to independence. Another example of a leader that is led by example is Alexander the Great. Do you think that his soldiers would have fought so hard for him if he sat and watched, safe from the battle? Probably not. He would have been just another boring general we read about in our history books, instead of the example of a successful leader that we know today. Gandhi and Alexander the Great helped change the world because they led by example, and as a result, they accomplished great things. Some of the worst leaders are the ones that say one thing and then do another. This is known as a do as I say, not as I do philosophy. This may work some of the time, but with this philosophy, it is very possible that followers will not be enthusiastic or trust their leader. When leaders don't practice what they preach, it can be almost impossible for a team to work together successfully. How can anyone trust a leader who talks about one thing but does another? Witnessing this can seem like a betrayal. Consider what might have happened if Gandhi had even one time been in a physical fight with his opposition. His important message of nonviolent protest would probably have been much harder to believe. His followers would have looked at him with suspicion and distrust. The chances of them getting into a physical argument or committing acts of violence probably would have increased dramatically. Leadership is about taking responsibility, not making excuses. In the end, it is not about who is the most popular. It is about who does the right thing, because actions really do speak louder than words. When I think of a true leader, I do not think of someone who is controlling. I think of someone who is beside his or her followers setting the right example.